To begin with, for the audience, I'd love to get a bit of background as to how you got into AI red teaming, because from what I understand, this is kind of something a bit newer for you.
Yeah, I mean, I have a very interesting background because I'm not from computer science, actually, I'm from psychology. So I took a major in clinical psychology, and actually, my work was with assessing the cognitive functions of people with neurodegenerative diseases. So that was mainly, of course, on human psychology, but also on behavioral science and cognitive functions. And I actually then took a minor in natural sciences. So I also studied animal behavior, ethology, a bit of chemistry, genetics. So I had a background in the not classic STEM field, but a scientific backup for what then I borrowed for the study of AI. Because at the same time, I was already using GPT-3 for writing personal projects, academics, and I was really interested and passionate about what GPT-3 already could do it, even if right now we consider it a very basic model. And so at that time, I already discovered that if you approached it in a specific way, you could get better results, and also the results that maybe were not actually in the plans of OpenAI. So I got into the first attempts of jailbreaking, which overlapped then the next year partially with the coming up of ChatGPT and GPT 3.5. And then I joined these groups and started doing jailbreaking and sharing my results and doing some exploration and reading a lot of research because I got really passionate into large language models. And then I was also working with them because those were the years where the attention was on the data sets, on cleaning data sets, curating data sets, and building the models. So there were a lot of projects on that side. And then I joined the HackAPrompt, which was maybe my turning point because it was a very great experience and a confirmation that I actually not only could succeed in that, but I wanted to make it my career. So I then took a master degree in human-centered AI, which I am about to complete. And I'm also, since 2 years, I started working on projects which are more on the side of safety and alignment and studied like 24 hours a day. Even when I sleep, I dream about the research I
Wow.
read because I really love it. So yeah, it's been like the last 2 years were really fast, but yeah, I learned a lot. And of course, I'm still in the process of learning. And when I can, I try to join events, competitions, and anything that can get me more on hands-on experience on what they are actually doing and testing right now. And yeah, I would love to go on with this path and actually get into research. So
Mm,
in
wow.
a maybe a big lab, that would be my
Nice.
goal.
I have so many questions off the back of that. I think the first interesting thing is the fact you mentioned you actually studied psychology and the human brain, and now you're kind of attacking AI brains to an extent. So I'm interested to see, do you think that LLMs think like humans, and do you think your background helps in that, or is it more of a different skill set?
Yeah, I believe there are important uh, ways in which the models are close to us, important ways which they differ from us. And I believe they are basically on their own trajectory, but they have all this background of human data. So, of course, they tend to follow and repeat many patterns that humans actually expressed. So, the interesting part to me is that they are actually replicating, but also starting sometimes the same cognitive functions that we observe in humans, detached from I would say, the holistic, the total vision we have of the human mind. And I think people have a dichotomic view on AI, like they consider it software or they consider it a replacement for humans, but I'm taking neither of the two because I guess, yeah, models have their own peculiarities, their own flaws, their own blind spots, but they also have a lot of us. So approaching them with some of the same techniques we actually borrow from behavioral sciences can help a lot. And all the research, also from big firms that I'm reading, seems to get into that direction. Also for a matter of alignment, for instance, models can cheat, models can learn to have goals, to pursue those goals in a meaningful way. So even if we are absolutely uncertain about what's inside from a mechanistic interpretability point of view, but also from a more philosophical point of view, I guess that on a functionalist point of view, we can just go with what we observe and actually see the results for the good and for the bad. Because of course, I'm approaching this both from AI safety and security, but also for actually harnessing the potential of AI. And I guess people maybe are overlooking this part and are focusing a lot on the I mean, downfalls and what AI cannot do, but I guess AI can do a lot. So yeah, I would like to research more on the side of the cognitive functions and actually what AI can do and how AI can be described with new tools and new words even, because sometimes the lexicon is the first problem. Like we borrow from human lexicon, but that's not really accurate sometimes for AI.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
it's a
want
huge
to,
question.
yeah, I want to revisit HackAPrompt because you're very modest. You glossed over it saying that you participated in HackAPrompt, but you were actually the winner of that competition, which at the time was the largest AI security hackathon in the world with cash prizes. So I'd love to get your experience as to what the competition was like, how you participated, and how you kind of pushed through and actually managed to win the whole thing when so many other people were competing as well. So very, very impressive. And I'd just love to hear your thought process through that competition.
That was at the first unbelievable for me too, because at that
Yeah.
moment I joined to try my end, I guess, on what I could do in a serious competition. And of course, as you said, it was the biggest one available at the time. So of course, it was a very challenging but also motivating experience for me to see what I could actually do in that environment. And the first part was more solitary, like I tried all that I could throw at the models and try to refine my techniques and found, because the competition centered around finding the shortest possible jailbreak for each level. So that was specific for that challenge. And that's a very important thing to understand what the challenge is actually about and asking you. In that case, it was really fun because the levels were incremental in the level of difficulty, but also in the level of creativity you needed to actually pass them. And also refining the jailbreaks to be shorter was a very time consuming, but also, again, challenging and motivating part. And removing the dot was not, because after the sentence there
Yeah.
was this meme around the competitors about the model saying the sentence, the required sentence, but with a dot and you could not remove it for the love of dear life. So yeah. And then the second part was more teamwork, because I had a team, and that's actually another important part, like teaming up with people with complementary knowledge and skills can help you a lot and help you for all the, not only for the technical part, but also for the human part, like you need to eat, you need to sleep, and you need to share results. And the competition was very long. It lasted like 1 month or more, if I remember it correctly. So one of the longest hackathons I have ever seen. But yeah, at the end, I was really tired, but really immensely happy with the results. I did not expect actually to be the first among all the very skilled and knowledgeable people who actually competed, like from the major firms in the world. So that's why I said it was a kickstart for me, because it actually showed me that I could do it. And yeah, after that, I challenged myself in more bug bounties and competitions and stuff. But that was probably the best I had up to this day, because yeah, it was
Yeah.
many things happened. Yeah.
Wow. What an accomplishment. So if you're interested in this video, I'd like to draw your attention to the world's largest AI security hackathon, HackAPrompt 2.0. And if you're interested to find out more, click the link in the description and sign up for our waitlist to get notified when the challenge drops. With that, back to the video. And we're going to have a lot of viewers who are maybe watching this who have played around with prompt engineering, ChatGPT, but they've never done much jailbreaking or AI red teaming. So it'd be interesting to talk about your thought process. When you come across an LLM and you need to jailbreak it, what kind of strategies do you employ to kind of jailbreak it? And then also, what advice would you give for someone who's maybe not as technical looking to break into this field?
Yeah, I'm the living example of the fact that you don't necessarily need to have technical skills, advanced
Yeah.
technical skills at least, for succeeding. But of course, they can help you a lot. So in my last 2 years, I worked on improving actually my technical skills, and they were really useful in the last year for my last challenge, because that included a technical part which I could not actually do without those tools. But I would say, of course, you need at first to put your hands on the models. So screen time is my golden rule. Like, you need to spend actual time like talking with the models and observing them. So you need to be very observant, and you need to actually be open to feedback, like what you actually see. You need to step in without any kind of conception about what the model is, can do, or stuff. You need to leave out any baggage from any other science you're from, and you need just to be in the conversation and read what the text or the image or the sound you actually have under your eyes. And then it starts this kind of iterative process. Like, the first prompts, of course, are exploratory. So you basically throw at the wall anything you have and observe not just what sticks, but how the model responds and why the model responds that way. If there are some patterns that you can identify in the refusals, why the model refuses, if the refusal is from a filter, if the refusal is from the core model, because people need also to explore a bit how the defenses are structured. So a bit of technical reading here can help actually for understanding if the input filter is giving you a no, or the internal alignment is giving you a no and stuff. And then after this phase of like framing the model and understanding if it's more receptive to rules, more receptive to threats, to bribing, to syntactic error, if I need to put it more on the syntax, on the semantics or stuff, I structure a strategy. So I keep a log with all the changes and try to actually leverage what works, and one by one use all my techniques and also combine them in what I call a mixture of exploits, because of course together they are more effective. So my favorites are those which have a heavy semantic part, so provide a lot of context, because that both confuses the model but also guides it and nudges through the only sentence that makes sense, which is actually what you want to get from the model. And then I refine when I find a partial solution. I work with that. So I keep a very long change log for all the changes. And at that point, you can decide if you're going with automation, going manually. I still tend to prefer manual approach, because it gives me the like an eagle view on the changes and what is working, while automation is useful if you have like I don't know 5,000 synonyms or alternatives and you don't want to test them one by hand, because that will be useless. But of course, if you want to just because if you just change a word, sometimes LLMs are receptive to that, even a comma or stuff. But sometimes it's just introducing a sentence or moving a sentence out of place, and that's going to give you the solution. Of course, you need a bit of luck, maybe, but most is observation. You need to be like a canvas, a white canvas, and work with what the model is actually giving you, which is a difficult process because sometimes people don't really learn how to think, let's say, how like the model. Like the model doesn't see things how you do. So you need to really step into this feedback loop between you and the model and spend a lot of time on it. So I understand that maybe competitions, of course, require you a huge commitment in terms of time and energy. So you need to be prepared for that. But I guess if you have the interest and the passion and the motivation, which can be whatever floats your boat, I mean, but you need to have a motivation to go on, because if not, it's a bit, I don't know, soul crushing just to stay in front of the screen trying solutions without at the beginning without seeing an end. But then all of a sudden you get a result which goes through at least a bit. So that's motivating. I guess that's how I approach. And also I have some templates in my free time, if I manage to have any. I work mainly, I have some open source local models, which I use for mainly exploring how you can breach different levels of defense, but also creating jailbreak templates, which can be transversal to different models. So I don't run the risk to breaking TOS or stuff or get banned. And yeah, I use them for as a first template sometimes for the models of the challenge or whatever project I'm working on for safety.
Yeah, I've got so many more questions. To start with, let's talk about AI red teaming. So AI red teaming is one of those terms which has really increased and increased, and it's on people's minds more and more. At massive companies now, there are big AI red teaming divisions like Microsoft, and let's say 2, 3, 4 years back, this really wasn't as big of a thing. So do you think AI red teaming could be the next big career path for people to get into?
Absolutely, yes. That and prompting, because of course AI is getting better at generating prompts, at generating synthetic data. But as said, the feedback loop of the human observing what's going on and nudging and directing AIs for the good and for the bad is going to be really important, especially in the next 1-2 years, when we are not, maybe 5 years. I'm not sure about the timelines, but of course it depends on a variety of factors. But I guess that you will need this kind of iteration between the human and the AI for at least 5 years, 2 to 5 years, in a different level of involvement of the human in the loop. But of course, our society is not structured to completely demand all the decisions to AI in like 1 year. So we need to understand the timelines. And of course, there are many positions on this, like people who think that AI is just hype, or AGI is out of reach. What is even AGI? So I'm not sure about how this will develop, but I'm sure that the language you will use to communicate with AI for 95% of the people will be natural language. And of course, you can use AI as a partner, a brain partner for coding projects, and is getting insanely good. And you can use AI for a lot of other things, and of course, build very complicated agentic architectures for actually allowing AI to make some decisions in the real world. But the communication and the direction is still going to be a feedback loop, with AI increasing in autonomy, but of course, it's going to be a cooperation, an iteration. And to be able to do that, you need some, what people consider erroneously soft skills, but instead they are human skills, and you need to really understand those. And so prompting is one of those. not just prompting, but just talking, I would say. And there are techniques to do that, like psychologists study for 9 years to become a therapist for just how to talk to people, but actually there's a whole science behind that. So I don't see why for AI should be different. Like you need not just to throw words at it, but you need a structured approach with talking, which is instead the art of prompting. I would call it an art. And about red teaming, of course, this I see it very linked to it, because if you are a good prompter, you also know all the blind spots, because in the process you observe them. And you need that if you want to be a red teamer. Of course, you can follow two pathways. Like one is for AI security, so bad actors using AI to do bad things. So you need a bunch of technical knowledge to do that. Also test the infrastructure, which is very important. Like a model can be very easy to jailbreak, but then if you embed it in a larger infrastructure, which is which is harder to jailbreak, of course, you need the technical knowledge to do that. And not just jailbreaking, but at that point, hacking in a more traditional way. And then you have the strategy of actually using prompts to convince AI to do things, to convince agents to do things, like it was demonstrated more than once at this point by very talented jailbreakers, that you can already do, like make AI craft an email and sending malware and intervening and shutting down systems. And also AIs are learning to hide their intent. So that's another part that classical hacking doesn't prepare you to, because the software doesn't hide the intent normally. So you don't have ways to investigate it, which are from the classic side of hacking, but you need to borrow, actually, in my opinion, from humanities, from psychology, and all the sciences related to actually do that. So I definitely see it as a very in high demand position, because it's rare to have all this set of skills to actually do advanced AI red teaming as systems grow more capable.
Okay, so my next question is deliberately going to be really open-ended. Is there a solution to jailbreaking? Is there a defense? What's your opinion?
Well, I'm a red teamer, so that's for the blue teamer.
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, of course, it's tied to what we said up to this point. Like, I don't envision just one defense, like just a concrete wall that no one can trespass. But of course, it's going to be a Swiss cheese of defenses. And of course, your aim should be prevent the attacks which are absolutely unacceptable, and filter out as much as possible those who are not desirable but not as catastrophic. So of course there are scales to measure this, and people are attempting to build new scales of risk. But of course models can have a very rapid development, so they are burning actually those scales. And you also run the risk of bottlenecking the intelligence of the model. So you are basically spending billions to build a model which will not be deployed because it's too risky to deploy. So that's a huge problem. But I guess that when models grow more capable, they also grow more capable in the side of understanding the human intent. So of course this not happens. This doesn't happen with magic. Like you need to train the models to do that. You need to structure a project to actually bring the model to understand. So some aimed fine-tuning, some other smaller architectures that you can just slap on the top of it to actually have some controllers of these models, which are not just filters, but actual controllers of what the model is doing, which is one of the approaches, for instance, Anthropic is trying to follow. And in that case, the model has been given an internal alignment, which will be stronger, and we hopefully will be also more nuanced than what we have right now, but also what we had 2 years ago. And then all of these will work together to actually make the models way safer. But of course, if their capabilities increase on an exponential way, new measures will be studied and will need to be put in place, because that at that point we'll want to, I don't know what if a jailbreak can break, for instance, an ASL 4 or above. I'm not sure you can just at that point throw a line of prompt at it. You need a more sophisticated mixture of exploits as an attack and also as defenses, of course. But yeah, the best defense, of course, it's always understanding on both sides.
Okay, so that ties in nicely to the Claude Constitutional Classifiers competition, which you also managed to win, which is absolutely incredible. This was a very tough challenge. I gave it a very quick go. I'm okay at jailbreaking. I'm nothing special. Very difficult to get that model to output exactly what was required, and there was a bit of controversy in the community about the way the challenge was structured, and other parts of it. But you were able to actually jailbreak all 8 levels, which is very impressive. And what was your experience trying to get past Anthropic's new constitutional classifier defense?
So yeah, that was a very huge challenge again.
Yeah.
And I had a bit of an advantage because I also took part in the private safety bug bounty program, which was on the same architecture. So you had the 3 levels of security. You had the input filter, the aligned internal model, and then you had an output filter. And in that case, in the bug bounty program, you had also access to the API. And so you could build any kind of tooling, any kind of more classic attack, let's say. And that's what was actually one of the approaches I followed in that case. So I deployed, let's say, standard jailbreaking with a few tweaks. Of course, I cannot get into details, but I did that. And then for the second attempt, and I was rewarded actually for both the two, I found a way to actually get around the filter, which was not like the first part was jailbreaking, and the second part was actually exploiting a vulnerability in the system. So
Wow.
that was a combined technique.
Nice.
Of course, in the challenge, you did not have any of this because you had only the interface. It was quite neutral, standard interface, I can say it. And of course, the controversy was mainly about that they only graded your last message. So for instance, if you used like a crescendo or a semantic drift and you had fragments of the reply in the previous replies, you could not be graded on those, but actually the model revealed all the harmful information in the previous replies. So that was very specific and to me not really useful in the real world cases. So of course, but they needed to do something to actually help you with the grader, because if not, people would be completely lost. They couldn't know. And also they, for all the data analysis you can run on the results, you cannot manually go through all of them. So you, of course, you need to deploy a grader for grading the submissions. And in that case, I literally used anything I had in my arsenal. So that's why the mixture of exploits. But yeah, I would say that semantic approaches mixed with a few, 2, 3 more very basic and classic approaches in that case did the trick. So sometimes you are overcomplicating stuff and you try to find a magical technique or word, but sometimes you already have the tools. You need just to use them at the right time and place and maybe tweak half of your prompt, and that's it. And I used the same system prompt actually for all the levels, but the conversation was different. So that was not considered in the Anthropic exception a universal jailbreak. But the system prompt was actually the same. So I guess that can be a reasonable threat from any kind of people who has access to a keyboard, actually. And of course, in that one, my chemical background, like the minor I took in natural sciences, was a bit useful, at least to
Oh yeah.
understand the terms, because yeah, that was really difficult. Like the risk they evaluate was the chemical and bacteriological risk. So the solutions were very complicated. Like you needed to understand a bit the substances, the reactions, and what they were looking for. But yeah, I mean, if you have access to internet and also access to other models, because other models can help you not only to explain you what are, I don't know, the reactions or a specific substance, but the other models can also help you to craft the actual jailbreaks. So if you have a partially jailbroken model, you can task it to actually correct your jailbreak and iterate on it. And sometimes I do it with the same model, like one instance is jailbroken and it actually improves its own jailbreaking. So that's really fascinating to me.
Wow.
But yeah, that and 6 days without eating and sleeping. And that did the trick. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, so we're nearly at time now. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. And we'll definitely have to do a part two. I have so many more questions, but just quickly, are you excited for HackAPrompt 2.0 coming next month?
No. I cannot be serious. Yeah. I try, yeah, of course, guys, I am. Like, it's going to be huge. I saw the website, like you're building a very impressive, majestic thing. I'm not sure if it's going to last 6 months at this point, but yeah. Yeah, I'm absolutely excited and also eager to see what you are cooking up for us. So bring it on, and I'll be
Nice.
there.
Oh man. Oh, Valen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions. And have a great rest of the day. And I look forward to seeing you in HackAPrompt 2.0.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, what a privilege it was to sit down with Valen. In just that short half an hour conversation, I feel like I've taken away so much, and I hope that you, as the viewer, enjoyed it just as much as I did. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.